Hello everyone, and welcome to a new beginning. Welcome to MLB The Show 22. It is my most played MLB The Show game. I've been playing since 2009, and I feel like now I can finally bring it to my channel with at least a little confidence. For this series, we'll be heading out to the AL West, and in case you weren't aware of what this division holds, I'll give you a quick history lesson. The AL West has 3 states, the northernmost being Washington, where the Seattle Mariners play. The Mariners haven't made the playoffs in almost 2 decades, but that certainly is changing. Powered by their young star Julio Rodriguez, the Mariners are in a great spot not only to take the AL West, but to control it for years to come. California is home to a host of MLB teams, none as memorable as the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. They've had varied amounts of success over the years, and although they're not the favorites in the West anymore, as long as they have the 2 generational players on their team, with all that needs to be said there are Trout and Ohtani, the Angels will always be a threat. The second, less impressive Californian team in the AL West are the Oakland Athletics. They are my personal favorite team in the MLB, and they've been notorious over the years for not spending money, and they've mostly struggled because of it. Despite the fact of this, last year they did finish 3rd in the AL West, and although their logic is a little confusing at times, they will always have their past success to rely on, and I consider them a sleeping giant. The final state in this triangle of sorts is Texas, and everyone's minds immediately head to Houston. Even though their World Series championship in 2017 has been marred by controversy, the fact still remains that this team is loaded with talent, and they are still chasing another title. Then there are the Texas Rangers. Widely regarded as one of the most unsuccessful organizations in all of American sports, the Rangers never really had a good time in baseball, whether when it was in D.C. as the Senators, or in Arlington, where they currently reside. This franchise had a few good years in the 2010s, with back-to-back American League titles in 2010 and 2011. However, in 2010, the Rangers lost the World Series to the San Francisco Giants, thanks to a certain catcher named Buster Posey. In 2011, the Rangers truly had the series won, before a magical night for David Freese swung the momentum, giving the Cardinals the World Series in 7 games. The Rangers haven't been to the postseason since 2016 after they won back-to-back AL West titles. They've been rebuilding, and it's time for this rebuild to come full circle and get them their first World Series championship. And with that long intro over, hello everyone, my name is Alton the Great in post-commentary. The entirety of this will be in post-commentary as we start our Texas Rangers MLB The Show 22 franchise. Some notable rule changes: GM contracts will be off. I will also be putting the designated hitter on auto, because I personally like the challenge of American League teams heading to National League stadiums and not having to use a DH, or not being able to use a DH, I should say. We're going to start in the regular season, of course. I don't have any desire to do spring training, although in the beginning of next year I will be doing spring training. Now, we got a lot to talk about when it comes to this team. There is so much that we need to fix, so much that we can fix. The first thing, as I always do, is get rid of these stupid notifications that I don't need to see. But yeah, we need to talk about this roster a little bit, because there are a few good and bad things about this roster. A kind of good thing is the fact that we have Marcus Semien. He is an excellent second baseman, who obviously spent time in the AL West in Oakland most recently, but the bad news is that contract. It is a massive contract. I do not like it, but I am not going to be trading Marcus Semien. We're going to have to build around him. Our next best player is actually one I'm kind of familiar with, Mitch Garver. I do enjoy me some Minnesota Twins, and he just joined Texas this season. He still has a year of arbitration left before he hits free agency, so we don't necessarily have to keep Mitch Garver, and we'll talk more about that later. But yeah, our third highest rated player, I should say, is Adolis Garcia. Hasn't played a bunch, but last year he was an all-star, so I'm not entirely sure if we're going to keep him. He has plenty of team control though, and hey, we might as well see who we can build around with this team. Also, a very notable player is Corey Seager. Surprisingly, he's an 80 overall for everything he's done with the Dodgers. He's, an almost 300 hitter, 100 home runs in 6 years. Like, he's done really well. And the Rangers paid him really, really well. A 10-year contract that I'm going to have to work around, and it is not going to be fun. Our top pitcher in this series right now, or on the team right now, is Dane Dunning. And he has not had a great MLB campaign so far, but he has plenty of team control. He's only 27, and he could definitely develop. And pitcher is going to be a big topic of this franchise, because we have a lot of pitchers who could become something or could become nothing. As we sort by age here, I want to remind you, this is a really young team by most standards. We do have quite a few players who are near MLB ready that could definitely, impact the team. A lot of players under 25, almost half the roster is under 25. And, yeah, we definitely have a lot of young players who could become really good or could become really bad. Well, not really bad, but, perform bad. As we just take a look at our pitchers here, obviously there's one of them that there's a couple that we need to talk about. We need to talk about our top prospects in this organization. And pitching as a whole is obviously weak on the Texas Rangers. It's not that good at all. But I think starting pitching we have some potential, and relief pitching we might not be as good. Looking through the rest of the roster here, first base and really the corner infield as a whole is just a huge concern of mine. Nathaniel Lowe, I don't know how to say his name at the current moment, is there at first base to be our potential starter, and we also have Josh Young, which we'll talk about more later, at third base. We have Culberson, Ibanez, and Miller, all three of them roughly the same area, or same area in their careers, mid-70s overall, around 30. We also have Matt Carpenter, which I was a little surprised to find out. He hasn't been traded in the live roster for this thing. I don't know why. But yeah, Matt Carpenter is also an option if we want to call him up for the final point in his career. One thing I think we are strong at is, at least decently starting off, is outfield. Solak is a great player. Eli White is a great utility guy. Leody Taveras is one of our top prospects. We also have Cole Calhoun. And sorry if I'm going through this quickly and it doesn't make a whole bunch of sense. I'm still trying to remember how I recorded all this stuff. Like in what specific order. I know how I recorded it. But yeah. So also I did remember kind of what we're supposed to be doing here. We're looking at the budget. And John Gray is a pitcher that I do quite enjoy, but I'm not entirely sure if he's worth this salary, this contract that he has right now, which I also thought included a player option, but it apparently didn't. As we go over here to check the budget, as I said, this team is very young, and the good news is we don't have a lot of money committed. Besides Semien and Seager, Brad Miller is the highest paid outside of John Gray, and even his contract is manageable, and I could probably trade him away. But we're certainly free as far as who we want to bring in and who we want to let go. And that is always a good thing to have, and I especially think that it will help us in this series. Free agency is a really big way, and an easy way, to get your team to the next level, I guess, to be better very early. And literally besides Brad Miller and Brad Miller and John Gray, we don't have a bunch of contracts that we need to deal with, and obviously there's Semien and Seager, but those were unavoidable. And Seager can still turn into a good player. But we should start talking about prospects now. And the top prospect in the organization is Jack Leiter, or Later. I'll have to go look at him, or look at his name real quick, but yeah, he's 21, A potential, 71 overall. Might have some, dual player, like Shohei, with those hitting ratings. But Leiter is a solid pitcher, at least as a base, and he will always have, I think, a shot in this organization. I'm going to be patient with him since he's already not on the 40-man, but he will be very, very closely watched, alongside Cole Winn, who's only 65 overall and a year older, but he also has the, I forget the name, two-way player, that's what it is, potential there, although I'm only being, just kind of looking at it. And Cole certainly has a similar potential, rating to Leiter, but overall, he's basically the same pitcher, but slightly less overall. And it's good that neither of these guys are on the 40-man at the current moment, because it gives them time to develop. Our third best prospect in the organization is Josh Young. And he has a potential. He's 70 overall. The only knock is that he's 24, but other than that, he has, team control. Obviously for a few years after, he's never been called up. I mean, in the series, he's been called up in real life, obviously. But he hits lefties better than righties, although he doesn't hit them dramatically better. He's just a solid overall prospect, overall player, I should say. And as a prospect, he's in a really good spot, especially with the three guys ahead of him, and I guess Matt Carpenter below him, being complete question marks in the organization, or as far as the future. I don't entirely know who has the edge at third base as far as who I'd keep long term, but Young is definitely the goal. Our fourth best prospect in the organization, in my opinion, is Leody Taveras. Although he is a fielding guy at 23 with B potential and 71 overall, I make the point about fielding guys because I do not really appreciate the defense of players a bunch. I would much prefer a hitting guy. I'd take hitting stats over fielding stats, because I think you can make up for that by hitting. But Leody is still in a pretty decent spot, especially with the B potential. And if we literally just work on his hitting and only his hitting, because obviously he does not need any more fielding, he should be fine. Now our fifth best prospect, and the last one I'm going to talk about in depth in this video, is actually Yohel Pozo, a catcher. He has C potential and he's 74 overall, but he's also 24, and he has amazing vision, he's decent fielding, and his hitting ratings as a whole aren't that terrible. He also hit 284 last year when he did get called up for Texas, and unfortunately he does have immediate free agent eligibility, so that will be a slight problem. But as far as the future at catcher, if I don't feel like we, have anyone with Mitch Garver or Jonah Heim, Yohel Pozo is definitely going to be someone I look into. And, because he is a hitting catcher, or at least he has the hitting ratings to be a really good hitting catcher. And he already hit decent last year. So I 100% believe that Yohel Pozo will be on this team. Another prospect worth mentioning is Colby Allard. I do quite like him. He always turns into something decent in my series. But relief pitching as a whole is not very strong. Even despite the fact that we have, some guys that I'm going to call up, it's not looking very good. Now, Joe Barlow, I want to say, is an exception to that. I actually think Joe Barlow could be on this team for a while. He's not guaranteed a spot, but it's certainly, there. Same thing with Dustin Harris, although he's more of a developmental guy, not a, call him up immediately guy. He's got decent fielding, good contact and power ratings, and he's at a position of need in the inner or middle infield. There's also Ezekiel Duran, who could also, develop into something. This is what I'm talking about with the Texas Rangers. They have so many just really good prospects who, could turn into something at some point, not just outside of the top ones. Also, Josh Smith looks like a very well-rounded player. I don't know why I kept going to the contracts, because there's nothing to look at. They're all prospects. But yeah, decent contact hitting outfield. Also worth mentioning, Luis Angel Acuna is on this team, and I found that pretty funny. I believe he's related to Ronald Acuna. I'll have to look that up for the next episode. But I'm definitely planning on getting him some playing time in this series. We also have Steele Walker. I am a sucker for good names, and Steele is an amazing name. So yeah, we'll see about that. As far as right field, there is Aaron Zavala, although he's more of a contact hitter. There's also Baron Lora that you saw there for a second. But the main thing about this team is going to be pitching. I don't entirely know how easy I don't think it's going to be that easy to build this team around pitching, but with the hitters in this division and the and the money that they have in free agency, we're going to need people like Jake Latz who could step up. Even though they don't have the highest potential, we can't just rely on leader and win. That's only a two good pitching combination. We have a lot of good going for us right now. So in this next part, we're going to do a few things. First off is scouting. I have a very specific scouting philosophy that I like to do, and the first thing we're going to do is get rid of some of these scouts. And I prioritize efficiency over everything. As you see, a 95 efficiency there from Eric Johnson. I believe I hire him. It looks like I do. Yeah, so efficiency means everything. And as I scroll down, I just kind of realized there was not a whole bunch of 95 efficiency guys, which is actually, for me, it's a little scary, but for the series, I think it's great because, I don't need to find all of the really good prospects as I hire Mark Chin to be the East Scout. And by the way, the only position that I usually don't go to, or region I should say, is the West. The international region is a very big region for me. It's why I hired two. There I hired David Zambrano, and then I actually keep Rudy Lee, so we actually keep our scouts for this season. I also wanted to look over the coaches, and I actually like the manager, Chris Woodward, a lot. He has some stuff that actually really helps out the team. Also, Sean Bisley is also there, and both of them are locked in for a while. But I won't really have a chance to really roll over the staff for at least a couple years. As we take a trip back to the roster here, I wanted to start what I call my fixing of the team. And basically, the way the rosters are set up in MLB The Show 22 does not really make a whole bunch of sense to me. I understand, real life players, it's obviously completely different when you import the live roster. But it just still confuses me why the 40-man is so filled up all the time. I don't understand how people do anything at the start of these series. So, obviously, as you saw earlier, the prospects are all jacked up with, later, not even in he's not playing ball. He's in single A, as the top prospect in the entire organization, I would bet. So I just like to go through and assort, make changes, put a lot of guys on waivers, unfortunately, and have to sim a few days to get through that and get the official AAA and AA rosters set up. But yeah, AJ Alexi I did decide to keep on, by the way. I think that player with that potential might have a chance to get taken. But other than that, it's time to just go through. I was just going through the entirety of the roster making sure everyone I wanted was in the right place. And the thing is with this team is that it kind of affects you a little bit. The thing about doing this, it kind of affects you a little bit when you're doing this. I don't necessarily view it as a bad start. It's more of a cleansing. Just kind of get everything where I believe it should be. You know, get certain prospects in certain levels of play. You know, like get all the B and C guys, you know, up. Also right there I recognized we had Jax Biggers, and I was like, actually got a little excited because Jax Biggers is really fun. But yeah, just like here we have like we had 3 AAA third basemen, and none of them were Josh Young, so it didn't really make any sense to me as to why they were there. I also moved up Luis Angel Acuna to AA, and just fixing everything I believe to be kind of an error. And some players are still going to get moved around. There's still, like, Zach Rex is on waivers, and I need to move him down to Class A, I believe. But yeah, I just tried to go through and make sure everything was at least halfway decent. I ended up having a lot of players at AA, so I had to figure that out between, you know, because 5 guys were on waivers in AAA, so I didn't have an actual idea of how AAA would look like without specifically going through and seeing who's on waivers. And most of it was relief pitching, so I just had to figure it out. I mean, I don't want to say most of it was relief pitching, but they had a lot of relievers at the end of it, as you'll see later when I tab through. But yeah, I think here I almost got the roster where I wanted it to. I was also watching a football game at the time, so I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I actually found out Nick Tropiano actually had a really, really good, has a really good career just going in the last couple of years. And I wanted him to actually be on the rotation, so I brought him up, and I will do rotations and lineups in this next segment as well. I think we're heading to that point rather soon. Yep, opening it up, I believe. Oh no, yes. Sorry, I'm still trying to do this post thing. Trust me, this will be a lot better whenever I get into the actual game and series. But yeah, I did want to set my scouting here. Now, my focus when building a team is usually through the outfield. Because we lack such depth at the corner infield position, or I should say good depth at the corner infield positions, I need to just start scouting infielders and quickly. And also I just went through here quickly because I did not know the splits as far as lefty-righty pitchers in our organization, and it was more righty than lefty, so I believe I ended up putting in the lefty skill there. But I think I ended up going righty pitcher with somebody. Yeah, right there with Mark Chin. And I prefer movement to velocity just because I'm tired of seeing all these 99 velocity guys. I want some more unique skill sets. But I mainly build through outfield. So Rudy Lee discovering this outfield is going to be very key. And hopefully we can get a superstar out of the central region. I absolutely love, to build all-star outfielders, or outfields, not only through free agency, but through drafting. There's plenty of good ones out there. I didn't go very quick. I just looked at Andres Ferreira for a little second there, but I wasn't actually interested in looking at any of the blue chips, not until I actually knew where we were drafting, because I still wasn't sure about that. But I also want to go put in something right here, and I specifically reminded myself that this would happen. There are these free agents, especially like Clarence Joseph, Jarvis Becker, these guys who are younger than 23 or younger. Matt Tabor I've seen especially, he almost always gets on a team. But yeah, there are some really decent players, especially at closing pitcher, that will turn, or will have A+ potential grades, but not be on a team because the game needs to fill out the the free agency pool, obviously. Now, I don't think I actually found a crap ton here. I know Brian Montano was pretty good. Marquez was high. overall, but I actually didn't think I found an A potential here, which was actually good, so I'm just pointing this out. I'm not going to sign any of these players until free agency in the off-season. I'm looking to rebuild the rotation, bullpen actually that way. But here you can see I'm adjusting the rotation. We're pretty much going to go with what I have. Nick Tropiano should be added to the rotation. If he is not, I will do it. Let me get in, and obviously, I know this is not, the greatest of, post commentaries, and certainly not something I can do, but I'm kind of pressed for time at the current moment, so I need to do this right now, and I don't have time to edit a crap ton. And I guess Nick Tropiano isn't going into the starting rotation just yet. I also just realized we have two lefties right there. That'd be two lefty long relievers, which I do not want. But Tropiano certainly will have first come, first serve out of the bullpen when it comes to replacing a starter. And now the thing that is, I don't want to say the bane of me, but it takes the longest time, and I absolutely despise doing it most of the time, and that is deciding the lineups. This is more of an issue at the start because I don't actually know much about these players, and even through their, career screens or their tabs, I don't entirely know how well, these players are going to sim, because obviously real life does not translate to game very well. And one thing I knew I had to do for sure was make sure Leody Taveras was getting some playing time. And, just make sure that we were playing everyone who was young that I could, that would not be a significant difference, I guess, between the overalls. So I actually did manage to cut out a little bit there, just me shuffling for about 2 minutes. But here is this opening day lineup. You see Lowe, Semien, Seager, then Garver, Adolis Garcia, Nick Solak, Brad Miller, Cole Calhoun, and then Leody Taveras. It switches a little bit due to platoon, which is one of the stupidest things that I have to deal with. I'd rather just be good against everyone, but you can't have that sometimes. So Culberson's in against lefties. I think there's a couple other changes, but yeah, that is the majority of what I was doing. I actually wanted to just set some trade blocks. I don't know how many trades I'm going to make, but we're looking for everything I just checked there. Pitching in all levels, first and third base. I can deal with the outfield that we have right now, and I don't think I'm going to be trading anyone anytime soon. At least probably not in the first season. I'd say the biggest candidates are probably Mitch Garver and maybe John Gray, but probably not. I also wanted to take a look at the schedule just to see when are we going to face, our division opponents. And, well, we get New York, and then we head out to Miami and Toronto, and then we host Colorado, and then our first game in the division will be against LA on April 14th. 4-game series with them. Then we meet Seattle, we head to Oakland, and then we host Houston for Atlanta. There's also a little bit of a preview into May. But that will be all for the introductory episode. My name is Alexander the Great. Thank you all for watching, and see you all next time.